The Anatolian origins of Proto-Indo-Europeans. But before we get too deep into the video, first I want to tell you guys about my social media platforms. So I have a Clubhouse account and we can actually talk to one another on it. I also host Clubhouse rooms every now and then where I might talk about history and genetics of the Middle East and Africa. I have a Twitter page, a Facebook account, and a Facebook page, as well as a Instagram, all titled The Hebrew of Israel. And what I typically do on these platforms is post upcoming videos as well as slides for my presentations. And so just be on the lookout for all of that on my social media platforms. And if you want to support me financially for the channel, you can look at my Patreon as well as my PayPal and my GoFundMe. And with all of that out of the way, let's begin with the video. And origins of Proto-Indo-Europeans, you have various beliefs. We covered the Yamnaya, but there are two more. The other believed homeland and origin of the Indo-Europeans is the Anatolian hypothesis. The Anatolian hypothesis suggests that the speakers of Proto-Indo-European, also known as PIE, lived in Anatolia during the Neolithic era, and it associates the distribution of historical Indo-European languages with the expansion during the Neolithic Revolution of the 7th and the 6th millennium BC. The Anatolian hypothesis, proposed by archaeologist Conley Renfrew, places the pre-Proto-Indo-European homeland in Anatolia around 8000 BC, and the homeland of Proto-Indo-European proper in the Balkans around 5000 BC, with waves of linguistic expansion following the progression of agriculture in Europe. According to Renfrew, 2004, the the spread of Indo-European proceeded in the following steps. Around 6500 BC, pre-Proto-Indo-European located in Anatolia splits into Anatolian and Archaic Proto-Indo-European. The language of those pre-Proto-Indo-European farmers who migrated to Europe in the initial farming dispersal. Around 5000 BC, Archaic Proto-Indo-European splits into Northwestern Indo-European, which includes the ancestor of Italic, Celtic, and Germanic, located in the Danube Valley. Balkan Proto-Indo-European, corresponding to the Gimbutas Old European culture. The early Steppe Proto-Indo-European, the ancestor of Tochtian. So here's just a map showing the Anatolian hypothesis and how these Proto-Indo-Europeans or pre-Proto-Indo-Europeans would have came out of Anatolia, going into the Balkans, and even going through the Caucasus and entering into Europe. And here is a video that will actually show the one of the examples of the Proto-Indo-European migration into Europe from Anatolia. If Proto-Indo-Europeans truly expanded from Anatolia, then this too can explain why we see haplogroup J among Indo-Europeans, because Anatolia is one of the locations with the oldest haplogroup J markers. Therefore, this could make haplogroup J one of the many Y DNA markers of Indo-Europeans. So here's just a map again showing the distribution of Indo-European languages as well as the distribution of haplogroup J, and they do overlap one another. Now, remember, as I said, J does have very ancient samples in Anatolia. This is from EUpedia, the section of haplogroup J1 origins and history, and it reads, the first J1 men lived in the late Upper Paleolithic, shortly before the end of the last ice age. The oldest identified J1 sample to date comes from Satsurbia Cave in Georgia, placing the origins of haplogroup J1 in all likelihood in the region around the Caucasus, Zagros, Tartarus, and eastern Anatolia during the Upper Paleolithic. Like many other successful lineages from the Middle East, J1 is thought to have undergone a major population expansion during the Neolithic period. A Cranary, a 2010 study, found that the greatest the greatest genetic diversity of J1 haplotypes was found in eastern Anatolia near Lake Van in central Kurdistan. The mountainous terrain of the Caucasus, Anatolia, and modern Iran, which wasn't suitable for early cereal farming, was an idle ground for goat and sheep herding and catalyzed propagation of J1 pastoralis. Having colonized most of Anatolia, J1 herders would have settled in the mountainous regions of Europe, including the southern Balkans, the Carthaginians, central and southern Italy, southern France, and most of the Iberian Peninsula. And this is from the emergence of Y chromosome haplogroup J1E among Arabic speaking populations. And it says, moreover, the previously described J1 chromosomes frequently found in the Caucasus and eastern Anatolia populations were ancestral to J1E and displayed an expansion time of 9,000 years. For J1E, the Zagros/Tartarus mountain range displays the highest haplotype diversity, although the J1E frequency increases towards the peripheral Arabian Peninsula. And this is from Origins and Diffusion of Human Y chromosome haplogroup J1-M267, and it says, around the time of the Neolithic demographic transition, the genome-wide ancestry of Western Asian populations was geographically structured into three groups. Among them, haplogroup J-M304 is found in the Caucasus, Iranian, and Anatolian hunter-gatherers and farmers, but not in the Levantine ones. Unfortunately, so far, aDNA studies are missing from the Arabian Peninsula and Mesopotamia, where haplogroup J-M304 is frequent nowadays. The J1A1B-Z18375 branch has a geographic distribution subsequently overlapping with that of the J1B-F4306 and the J1A2-PH77 branches. The J1A1B-Z18375 branch is found overwhelmingly among ancient and modern populations from the Caucasus, the Armenian highland, Iran, and Anatolia. This branch constitutes the aforementioned peak of haplogroup J1-M267 frequency in the Northeast Caucasus. Haplogroup J1-M267 were found among populations living in the Caucasus and neighboring regions. And so, again, haplogroup J has its oldest origins in the Anatolian, Caucasian, Iranian region, but of course our focus is Anatolia specifically, as we see this is where Indo-Europeans could have came from, Anatolia, and we do see J in Old Anatolia as well. And it says, this is still sticking with haplogroup J1 from EUpedia, most J1 Europeans belong to the J1-Z1828 branch, which is found in Anatolia and the Caucasus, but not in Arabic countries. The Z1842 subclade of Z1828 is the most common variety of J1 in Armenia and Georgia. And this paper right here is called How Eurasia Was Born. And it says, while early Indo-Europeans who originally crossed from Anatolia in the Bronze Age were most likely represented by various J2 subclades, genetic data suggests that as soon as they reached Central Europe, they assimilated large masses of the native population, and from then on, the rest of their expansion were characterized by more recently formed subclades of the haplogroups characteristic to the native population. And so here's just a map showing you the migration of these Indo-Europeans and J markers being among them, of the expansion in Anatolia specifically. And again, just showing you the overlay of Indo-European languages and haplogroup J, specifically J2, and it does perfectly overlap one another. So what have we learned so far? The Anatolian hypothesis is the belief that Proto-Indo-Europeans expanded from Anatolia. Haplogroup J had an ancient presence in Anatolia. Therefore, I believe that haplogroup J is likely one of many Indo-European Y DNA chromosomes in origin, and from the sources we've read, that does seem to be the case. So this is the Anatolian Proto-Indo-European origins, or hypothesis. If you enjoyed the video, please do not forget to leave a like and a comment for any questions you might have. Click the bell, subscribe, share the video, and don't forget to follow the socials that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And with all of that out of the way, have a great day and shalom.